Hello everyone and welcome to our Crowdfund Sport webinar with British Cycling. I'm Chloe, I'm part of the team here at Crowdfunder. Hopefully by the end of today's session you will leave knowing more about crowdfunding, the extra funding available from British Cycling or Places to Ride to prepare you to crowdfund for your organisation or your project. At the end of the session, we will send you a link to the online learning platform, which will take you through the steps of how to plan, create and run a successful crowdfunding campaign. Just some quick housekeeping points before we get started. We have allowed 30 minutes for the session, but it could take a little bit longer than that depending on the questions from you guys. If you do have any questions, type it in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to those in the Q&A session towards the end of this webinar. We are working from home, so anything could happen. I happen to have a very lively dog in the very next room, so if you hear any barking or anything else, please just bear with us. And finally, if you're sitting there wondering if anyone can see you, don't worry, they can't. You guys can see us, but we can't see you. So today we're going to hear from Amy from British Cycling, one of our crowdfunding experts, Kirsty, and we've also got a guest speaker from Brixton BMX, who has successfully run a brilliant crowdfunding campaign and is going to tell us all about what works and what didn't for him. So to get us started, Amy, are you there?
I am. Hi, nice to meet everyone. Thank you very much for joining today.
Thanks for coming. Your video is just loading at the moment by the looks of things.
Oh. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you fine. So let's go with that. So Amy, can you tell us a bit about the Places to Ride Fund?
Yes, of course. So following the Road World Championships in Yorkshire in 2019, £15 million was made available from the government to invest in cycling facilities. Now, this was named the Places to Ride Fund, which you may have heard of. And the main priority with this was around the development of new and improvement of existing cycling facilities. So the programme is being delivered through a partnership with DCMS, Sport England and British Cycling. And the £15 million was split into a number of different pots, such as large-scale projects, which may have been over £50,000 of investment, and smaller scale projects, which would be under £50,000 of investment. So the main applications for those have closed. That all finished up in March. And we partnered with Crowdfunder to invest some of the funding in a bit of a different way to what you'd probably normally perceive as our normal way of applying for funding. And this is actually the only funding that we do currently have available now for facilities. So the main things we wanted to achieve through the Places to Ride Fund is encouraging more people from a range of backgrounds to take up cycling in all its forms and provide more opportunities for inclusive traffic-free cycling. And we want to invest in opportunities that connect local communities, and we want to ensure that we're delivering a lasting legacy, so creating active environments that provide high quality and affordable opportunities. So we can match fund up to £15,000 of your project. So for example, if you have a £30,000 project, we can potentially contribute up to £15,000 of that, or 50% of your target. There are a number of criteria that you'd need to meet, which I think the Crowdfunder team will go through a little bit later. But if not, I can come back to it at the end, no problem. So we're really keen to hear from community groups, clubs, charities, anyone really that has a great cycling related idea for community-based cycling. I do encourage you to look at the eligibility criteria before you apply, because, for example, the fund doesn't allow us to support revenue costs, so such as staffing costs, insurance, we just wouldn't be able to support that. So what you are asking us for must be capital-based costs. And please also be really specific on what the funding will cover. Then we don't need to come back and ask you loads of questions. So cover off your timelines around the project and how you're going to deliver it and exactly what it is that you want our money for, because that really helps the assessment panel then know and understand what your project is about and what you are going to put our money towards. And what really helps in the outset as well is, for example, if you're going to build a new pump track within your community, tell us about it, tell us what you've already done to date. And if you've got designs, share those designs on your page, because it's great for us to see as well, because we've got technical experts on hand, but it's also great, I think, for your funders and anyone else to see where you're up to with the project. So short and sweet, I think that's probably enough for now, but please do feel free to pop some questions in the chat bar for the end of the session that might be a bit more relevant to your individual project.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, we're going to ask Amy to come back and join us. So if any questions crop up throughout the sessions for Amy, pop them in the chat box and we'll go through those later on. Thank you, Amy. We'll speak to you later.
Thanks. Is my video working? Or
it's not for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's you. It could be me.
Right. Fingers crossed for the end then. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Amy. Next up, Kirsty is going to tell us a little bit more about how to crowdfund for a sports project. Hi, Kirsty. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Could you see Amy?
I can see Amy, but not you. When I'm going through my slides, excuse us, everybody, with a little bit of technical issue. Can you maybe switch your video off and on again? See if that helps. So
right, yeah, it's me then. All right. Cool. All right, I'll leave it with you then. I will see you later. Thanks, Kirsty.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a bit more about crowdfunding, how it works and such like. So what is crowdfunding? Well, it is a great way to raise money and awareness for your organisation, for your project, by engaging with your community. So you are first of all going to create a page on our online platform. It's a really user-friendly system, so don't worry if you're not too tech savvy. We've made it nice and easy to use and set up your page for you. It just talks you through step by step. So you're going to create a really good looking page, and then you're going to share it with everybody and promote with all of your network and tap into lots of other people's networks as well. And then you get pledges onto your page and you get funded. And as Amy mentioned there, there's the British Cycling funding available, which we'll go through in a little bit of more detail in a slide or two. So firstly, talking about identifying your crowd. So you're going to go into and really research your network map is what we call it. So you want to just sit down, make a list of absolutely everybody that you know and that your team knows, anybody who you're associated with and their networks. So you're looking to connect with obviously local cyclists, local schools, because your project may be providing a safer route to school and that's the prime focus. So you definitely want to engage with those schools to let them know what you're doing, and then they can help to share your project and support your project as well. Your own personal network and that of everybody in the team, local residents, because it will have an impact on them by providing extra or improved accessibility and making cycle routes potentially safer for the community, hopefully as well. And so encouraging more people to get cycling and more potential customers too. So, and reach out to local businesses, let them know what you're doing. It may be going past their shop front, for example. So they may want to just be involved in what's happening and support the project too. So it's just sitting down, making that network map is one of the first tasks you'll have. Then it comes on to creating your page. So what we'll always recommend is sitting down and writing your story. Make sure you cover off these headline sections mentioned there. So think about, you want to tell everyone who you are as a group, what the project is about, why it's so important, and then how will the money be spent. So you want to create something that looks a bit like this page on the screen now. Use these bold headings to section the story, make it easy to read and have a nice flow to it. And then once you've got your story down, you want to make the page look appealing and more attractive to the reader. So you want to use images, nice bright bold images, pictures of the location if that's applicable, and any cycling equipment potentially as well, and good to look at. And then you want to do a short video for the top of your page. 1 to 2 minutes is absolutely perfect, doesn't need to be anything overproduced, something quite simple that talks about your project, get the passion across in the video as well for your project, and just tell people in a nutshell what you're looking to achieve. And that will help to engage with supporters, and it helps those who are a bit short on time, potentially just want to know about the project and make a quick decision on whether they're going to pledge or not. And then with the pledging, you want some tempting rewards. So Crowdfunder is the #1 rewards-based crowdfunding platform in the UK. So all projects have the option to have just donations only, and or you can add rewards. So when it comes to rewards, you need to get a bit creative, especially if you don't have a particular product and service to offer. So you need to think outside the box. What can you offer in terms of time or expertise? So on the left-hand side, you'll see a couple of rewards there which are cycling related. So there's the ramp, for example, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see some what you might think are a little bit odd to do with cycling, but there's one for a pizza shop, for example, and then there's a Turkish barber experience. So that is where connecting with other local businesses can be useful. So if you get them involved, they can potentially offer a reward that is available only through your crowdfunder. So it's exclusive, it can be a one-off item, and it's helping local businesses, but also raising money on behalf of your project. So that's why it's really good to engage with local people as well. So on to the sharing of your project, connect with the community. So up front, before you go live, you'll have done your network map, list everybody that you want to get in contact with, and actually the network map can evolve through your project. So you'll start to make connections with people, and then they may well refer you on to other people, so that will grow through your project. So use social media to your benefit. It is your friend. So again, if you don't have a very high following on Facebook, for example, or you don't have a Facebook page at all, start one up early doors, try and get some followers onto that, or increase your followers, because Facebook tends to be the most effective source of actual pledges. But again, if you're on Twitter or Instagram, then use those as well. Don't be afraid to actually use those to promote your project far and wide. And keep referring back to your network map. Make sure you have contacted everybody that you initially listed. Social media is great, but also don't forget the traditional forms of promotion, posters and flyers. And you can see there a screenshot of a poster there, and you'll have a QR code, which we provide you with when you go live, which you can print on posters, and that takes people directly to your page. Another feature that we have on our platform is something called a multiplier. So that allows people to fundraise on behalf of your project. So if you have a group of people, or you're part of a cycling group, then you might want to run a little competition. You're all fundraising on behalf of the same project, but you might have a competition, see who can cycle the furthest, for example, and you're almost doing like a sponsored cycle. Everybody has their individual page raising money, and then that all diverts into the main project page. So check out the multiplier feature and use that as well. So on to the actual fund itself. So British Cycling, places to ride. Amy's covered off most of that, I think, up front, what it's actually applicable to. So I'm just going to cover the actual money side of things. So there's up to £15,000 available per project. It's set, they make a decision based on your target. So it's up to 50% of your target, and that maximum of 15,000. So you could have a higher target than 30,000, for example, but it will only ever give you 15,000 of extra funding. And there's a few numbers just to be aware of. So what happens is you create your page, first of all. You then apply for your to British Cycling for the extra funding. They'll take a look at your page, so make sure your page is in the state that you would want it to be when you go live. So that will give them an inform their decision on whether they're going to offer you funding or not, and they'll let you know how much funding they're going to offer you. And that will help you to decide, to work out how many supporters you need as well. So if your initial target is up to £5,000, then you need to get at least 25 pledges from unique card numbers, that is, for required supporters, and reach 25% of your target. Once you've met both of those criteria, the pledge is added to your page, so it's visible on the amount raised. Then you continue to crowdfund, and once you reach 100% of your target, then that extra funding is secured. If you don't reach your 100% of target, that pledge will be removed and it's returned to British Cycling. So you really need to have a realistic target before you start as well, and aim for that. Okay, sorry, I've kind of glossed over the rest of the numbers there. They're on the screen, so you can have a look. But obviously, the higher your target, the higher the number of supporters that you need. So it increases to 50 if it's between 5 and 10,000, then up to 75 between 10 and 15, and then anything over 15,001 would require 100 unique supporters before that pledge is added. So we've covered probably quite a lot in this. There's more information though, so what I'm going to say is we do provide lots of resources to help you along the way, and one of the best resources is our online learning course. So this is just a screenshot to show you how simply laid out it is and very easy to follow. So hopefully the link to the online course will appear in the chat box soon if Chloe's got that. If not, we'll pop it in just a moment. And so highly recommend to go on to that as your next step before creating your project. So it'll consolidate everything I've just gone over and give you more tips and guidance on how to create a great project. Okay. So I'm going to hand back to yourself, Chloe, now.
Fabulous. Hopefully everyone can see me this time. Thank you, Kirsty. That was brilliant. So next up, we're going to hear from Stefan, who successfully crowdfunded for Brixton BMX Club and raised a rather impressive £56,795 from a whopping 548 supporters. Hello, Stefan. How are you doing?
Hi, Chloe. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. You have run such a brilliant crowdfunding campaign, so I'm really excited to hear a bit more about your experience. So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So yeah, we're a BMX club in South London, established in 1981. We're volunteer-led. I'm a member of the management committee there and a volunteer with the club for a number of years now. And one of the things we've kind of wanted to do for a few years was to give our facility a little bit of a facelift, make it more usable, get more bikes. Obviously, BMX, most cycling disciplines, I think, since pandemic are growing. Certainly with the success that we've seen with Kai White and Bethany Shriever at the Olympics, BMX as the sport, BMX race is growing very fast, and we're feeling that at the track. We need more bikes. We need to kind of continually invest in our racetrack to make sure that it's safe. And so we came up with a plan. We're lucky to have an architect or a landscape architect in our membership, and we came up with a plan with her to upgrade the facility, make it more usable. We've gone through a number of kind of high-level costings, figured out how much money we need to raise, and yeah, that's kind of how we ended up sort of coming to Crowdfunder and doing some crowdfunding. That was kind of part of our funding plan, I guess.
And that brings me on nicely to my next question. Why Crowdfunder?
Well, we need to raise between 110 and 120,000 pounds, which is a lot. And working with, so our track is actually in a public park in Brockwell Park in South London, and working with the Lambeth Parks fundraising team, they kind of advised us that it's unlikely that we'll be able to find a grant giver that would give us all of the money. But it's more likely that we could find a number of different grant givers that might give us a portion of the money that we need. And the advice they gave us was, if you want to give them confidence and sort of open the floodgates to get some grants in, the best strategy is to do a crowdfunder. This way, not only can you access match funding, which kind of I guess the main reason for this call, the match funding from British Cycling, but you can also demonstrate to other grant givers that the project that you're working on is widely supported. So it's not only about raising money, it's also showing other grant givers that your project is worth funding. And that's kind of how it played out for us. So we're really happy.
Absolutely. What you've done is effectively get your community to say, yes, we want this, and really back up your idea. So what did you find most difficult about crowdfunding?
Oh, I've got a bit of a laundry list here, but I'll try and be focused. I think that the top difficult thing was just getting started. This was, months, if not years, in the making and the planning. Got to a point where the fundraising officer was kind of laughing at me every time I said, "Yeah, we're going to do the fundraiser, we're going to do the crowdfunder, on this month or that month." And in the end, she just laughed at me, and I was like, "Well, I just need to do it now, don't I?" But I was terrified. I genuinely feel like crowdfunding, it's very, you either succeed and it's it's amazing, or it's a very public failure. And I was really scared of failing publicly for different reasons, but it held me back from doing it. But I guess the long period of time leading up to it, from when we decided we were going to do it, or when we were told we had to do it if we wanted to be successful in our overall plan, allowed us to do a lot of planning. And I would say just the steps that we took to launch was understanding exactly how it all worked. So there is quite a lot of reading. These kind of webinars are great, but there is quite a lot of reading to get your head around how it all works. I'd say I got a couple of things wrong. I didn't really understand how the match funding worked. I wish I'd attended more webinars like this. But yeah, I think getting started was the hardest part for me. And when I finally did, all that planning and time that we took to kind of build up to it did pay off in the end. So it was all good.
Yeah, I think planning really is key. It's, I see projects on two ends of the spectrum, those that are like you, that have sort of thought about it for a long time and are a bit nervous to get started. And then the other hand, you get people that just throw themselves into it and haven't done any of that research. So if you're going to be on either end, go towards Stefan's and do your research first, for sure. Okay, and what worked best?
Well, it was immensely, it exceeded, I think, everyone's expectations, what happened in the end. But if I could sort of throw out a few things I would definitely recommend. So have a plan, trust your plan, and execute. I'm going to talk about the multiplier tool in a little bit more details in the next question, but so I won't focus on that now. But knowing, if you're part of a cycling club or cycling community, taking the time to know all the people in that community is really, really important, because there could be some really key skills or experienced people that can bring a lot to the table. In our case, we had a creative director who helped us. He used his network to do an amazing video for us. So I think that was quite a kind of key part of our campaign, was a really emotive and compelling video that told a story about the club and told everyone, very concisely what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. Also, we took the time to create a kind of like a mini committee for this, and that was just a way to see A, who was interested, and B, what kind of skills and experiences they had. So we had fundraising experts, we had creative experts, we had social media people, different skills that we were able to draw on. And actually, one of the people in this little kind of loose subcommittee that we created came up with the idea to do a sponsored ride. So we came up with the idea because we wanted something that would make it easy for the local press or just press in general to talk about it, like a hook that they could get into. And so we said, right, let's say that we are going to ride the length of the country on our BMX track through the length of the campaign. So that idea would not have come to me on my own, and it was really just about sort of getting as many brains to the table, around the table, discussing, planning, and pulling all the good ideas that came out of that. So that's something I would say is don't try and do it all on your own. Try and crowdsource the ideas and the skills in your community as well. Get as many people to share ownership of it.
I think that's brilliant advice. No one's an expert at everything, are they? So if you've got a team of people, you can play to each of their strengths. Now, you touched on the multiplier tool. You had some really fantastic fundraisers. How did you encourage them to get involved?
Yeah, so it comes down to communication, really. We have a newsletter, we have a WhatsApp group for our club, we have like some social media channels, and the idea, obviously, that I mentioned was we're going to cycle the length of the country on the track. In order to do that, we kind of figured out how many members do we have in our club, how many laps would they each need to ride in order to make the kind of, I think it's about 4,000 kilometers or something like that. I can't remember what the distance is from Land's End to Chonagh Roads, but we figured out how many laps everyone would need to ride, and then we just started communicating. About a month in advance, we started communicating to our members that we were working on this project, we needed to do some fundraising, we were going to launch a crowdfunder, and we wanted everybody to be part of it. And then made it really clear to them how they could be part of it. So we said, right, everybody needs to ride a minimum of 40 laps, set up a sponsorship page linked to our crowdfund campaign, and start sort of approaching friends, families, schools, communities, etc. We've got 130 sort of plus members in our club at the moment, and it was that multiplier effect through those members. If in the end, I think we had about 25, maybe up to 30 people that actually took the effort to get on board, create their own fundraising page. And I found it really, really enriching to see these very personal stories on these pages cropping up about what the club meant to them, the impact it's had on them and their families. It was amazing, really. I learned so much about members in our club through this. But really, we identified pretty early off that, while we hoped that, let's say, a BMX club in another part of the country would care enough about it to make a small donation to us, like, actually, that's not realistic. The people that are most likely going to donate to your campaign or pledge to your campaign are your immediate friends and family of the people that are actually, in your club or in your community. So have a think about what's kind of realistic, how many people you have, how many people, out of those people that you have in your community, how many are able to sort of get involved and help you fundraise. Friends and family is by far, if you do as kind of a sponsored ride, friends and family is by far the most likely to sponsor. And we had a few members that really, really got into it, and they raised £1,000+ just on their own, leveraging all of their big networks. It was really, really amazing to see.
Did you find there was any sort of competition between your fundraisers?
We debated whether we wanted to kind of push that. And in the end, we decided we would just, there is a kind of, crowdfunder is quite cool. Like there's it kind of creates a natural leaderboard. The top fundraisers get put at the top. So the more money you raise, the higher up the kind of leaderboard you go. And we just figured that's enough. People, that's very transparent. Everyone who's kind of into this is following it, and it kind of created a natural bit of competition. But we didn't want to alienate anyone who maybe wasn't able to kind of raise loads and loads of money. We work across a really sort of diverse community, and we just wanted to kind of be sensitive around not rubbing anyone's nose in it if they weren't able to raise £1,000, for example. So that was why we didn't really go too far down the road of creating a huge kind of song and dance about it. But I think it just kind of automatically happened anyway, that people were, yeah.
So other than financial, did you find that crowdfunding had any other benefits to the club?
Lots, actually, yeah. It's an amazing opportunity to shout about your club, jump and shout and make a fuss, and be just advertise it, what you do, etc. And loads of people in our local community, we realized, it was really quite amazing. We realized just how much support is out there for our club, what we do. It was a really nice opportunity to just tell our story and then promote it far and wide. So many local stakeholders came through, made pledges, shared it. Random people in our local community whether it was on different social media channels, just like pledging and telling out other people to pledge, and you had like the local press jumping on it. You had a chance to engage with local politicians. It was a huge positive PR campaign for the club, and it's quite hard to measure what kind of impact it has, but it's safe to say it's been a massive impact, and has really helped the club to and now the club locally, people know what it's about. They know how long it's been around. They know, for example, that Kai White started there when he was 3. We put we kind of put a lead photo on our campaign of Kai as a 3-year-old on our track, and obviously off the back of his Olympic success, that was really fortunate timing for us. But it's just great to have had a chance to shout from the rooftops all about what we do and who we are. We also were very fortunate to have BBC London News do a little piece on us, which did lead to that led to a spike in complete randomers just deciding to pledge to us, which was amazing. So yeah, I would say there was a lot of benefits outside of just raising money.
Excellent. Now, what piece of advice would you give someone that is considering crowdfunding? Go for it
is my top advice. Watch the videos. There's a lot of good content out there. Whether you search YouTube or you go into your learning portals on Crowdfunder, etc. There's so much good advice out there on how to run a successful crowdfunder. I think actually the main piece of advice I would give is that if you are seriously considering a campaign, go and create your draft, open it up, and start to engage with the team at Crowdfunder. Because Chloe, credit to you. I mean, I learned so much from the interactions that we had, and that only kind of kicked up once we started drafting our campaign, and you guys saw that we were moving towards launching in a few weeks, and you reached out to us and closed all the knowledge gaps that we had, provided reassurance that we were, on the right track, gave us, I think it was the day before we launched that you said, look, it's a really good idea to do a soft launch. Don't put it out on social media to begin with, let it just simmer away within the club. So we did a soft launch. We launched our campaign and we only promoted it within our club. And that allowed us to get about, 15% of our overall target just in the first sort of 5 to 6 days before we went to social media and before we went to local press and started really hammering the campaign. It gave us credibility when we finally did go live. People would land on the page. It wasn't that it was only like £5 on there. It was already multiple £1,000 on there. So that was really, really good advice. But yeah, just go for it. Engage with the crowdfunding team, and do your best to consume all the knowledge that's out there.
That's a really good point, actually, because we don't know you're considering crowdfunding until you've started creating a draft page, at which point you will get tips from us. So if you're unsure, if you even just got the slightest inkling that you're interested, create a page and see what comes back. Have a think about the feedback that you receive from us, and we can help you get there. Right, we've had a couple more questions from the audience. So I'm going to ask Amy and Kirsty to come back and join us. If you guys are there. Hello, everyone. Right, I'm going to whiz through these because we are a little short on time. First one's for you, Amy. From Kim, can local authorities count towards extra funding? So if a local authority pledges on a campaign?
Yes, I think anyone or any organisation that pledges on a campaign is eligible as one of your numbers. Yeah, so that is eligible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob asks, how do you set up the multiplier? I'm going to give that to Stefan. How did you do that?
So once you create your campaign page, there is a button. Once it's live, there is a button that anyone, you know, whether they're in your club or not, they can set up a supporters page. It's just a blue button that says start supporting, and you go and you have a chance to, you know, put a photo, personal story, why you're fundraising for it, and that's all there is to it. It's really, really easy.
The follow up to that question was, do people have to be part of your club to fundraise? And you've
Nope.
answered that as well. No, anyone can fundraise for it. So it could just be someone that loves your idea and wants to get involved and take a bit of ownership. Sophie asks another one for you, Amy. We're building a skate park as part of a wider project for the local park. Would we be eligible even though not all the money will be spent on the cycling bits?
Yes, absolutely. We've had a couple of projects that are doing a wider scheme. So as long as you're really specific within your page on what our funding will be used towards, which is obviously the cycling elements, then that's the piece that we'll be talking to you about. But what I will say is, if you're in really, really early days, we wouldn't be able to fund sort of your feasibility studies and your planning application and that sort of thing. We'd be able to fund more when you're almost ready to go and the specifics of it.
And do they need to have planning permission in place?
No, I wouldn't say so, but we'd want the confidence that they have the relationship with the council already, and they're either the leaseholder of the land or they own the land themselves. So there are a few things around the eligibility, which is why I said earlier, do have a look at our criteria. And also, I'm happy for you to contact me in advance if you're launching, if you've got any specific questions around that as well.
Fab, thank you. And one for you, Kirsty. Richard says, how long should I spend planning a campaign?
The planning actually can take just as long as running the live campaign. There's a lot of planning involved. So you've got your network map. You now then need to think about your marketing plan, drafting the page, and you might want more than one draft as well to get it to that standard that you want it to do. So probably for the specific planning of the crowdfunding, about 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. Again, think about the capacity you have in your team. If there's only one person available to work on it, then obviously it'll take a bit longer. If you've got a team of people that you can delegate tasks to, then all the better. That will cut down on the time as well. So yeah, 4 to 6 weeks, I would say, planning.
Fantastic. Another one for you, Amy. Are parish councils eligible?
Yeah, yes, they are.
Fantastic. Any more questions for our panel? Put them in the right-hand side of the screen. Otherwise, we're looking like we're probably nearing the end of our questions now.
Sorry, I've just spotted one around what if the cycling project is for active travel and not sport per se? One of our criteria is around inclusive traffic-free cycling. So without understanding more about your project, I couldn't give a definitive answer, but if it's active travel from getting to A to B on roads that isn't traffic free, then it probably wouldn't be eligible.
Fantastic.
There's one there as well, Chloe, about asking about the targets. I don't know if you've seen that one. So it's been asked, if you need to raise 10,000, would your page target be 5,000 and then matched, or is your page target 10,000? You set your target at 10,000, and then British Cycling will look at how much of that they would fund. Is that the way you would say it, Amy?
Yeah. So we could, if it was 10,000, we would match fund up to 5.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Can you guys see any more?
There's a couple more just in the Q&A. I don't know if we've got different views of the chat box for some reason, but there's one also. Sarah's asked, how long do you get to crowdfund a project? It's entirely up to yourself. You set, well, let's say it's entirely, there's a limit of 8 weeks is the max, but we usually recommend about 4 weeks is optimum. You'll see a typical pattern of pledges, flurry of pledges at the start, potentially a bit of a droop in the middle, and then a flurry at the end. So, but it doesn't necessarily equate that the longer you run your crowdfunder for, the more you'll raise, because you want to have that urgency to motivate your crowd. So aim for about between 4 weeks and 6 weeks, the same as the planning. Oh, we've lost Chloe. Chloe's come back. We lost
Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my internet at the moment. I do apologise.
That's all right. So I don't know if you want to wrap up. There's a couple of other questions there. Do you want me just to quickly cover them?
I can't see any of our questions. I'm not sure if that's my internet or what, but they've all disappeared for me now.
Okay, well, there's one from Roman who's asking, do crowdfunder charge a fee? Yes, we do. We have a link to the fees. We can say there's an actual page that you can look on for fees, and it's all according to the type of organisation you are, whether you're a charity or a registered organisation. So if you're a charity or a not-for-profit organisation, then there's no platform fee from Crowdfunder, but there will be transaction fees from the company that we use to do the online card transactions, Stripe. If you're a for-profit organisation, there's a fee of 5% from Crowdfunder plus 20 pence per pledge plus VAT on the card transactions as well. So check it out. It's not that straightforward, but yeah, you need to slot into a particular category. Check out the fees page.
I've just popped the link in the chat box. I'm also going to post the Learn platform, which should be your next point of call after this session. Jump on there and learn the ins and outs of crowdfunding. And make sure you check out Brixton BMX page as well. It's a really fantastic example, and Stefan and the team did a brilliant job. So it's always worth having a look at other projects to get a bit of inspiration and watch their video. It's lovely. I think that's all from us today, unless you guys can see any more questions that are hiding from me.
There's one more.
Go on.
Yeah, probably straightforward. I think it's probably for yourself, Amy. Can other grants be match funded or just the crowdfunder income?
I'm not entirely sure what that means. Can you guys shed any light?
I think potentially if you're getting another fund from elsewhere, a grant or something maybe, then if you're envisaging that being applied to your crowdfunder, would that then be matched by British Cycling? I'm not sure that would be normal practice. If you're getting a grant, it would potentially be separate to the crowdfunder campaign anyway, and therefore not available for the matching.
Yeah, so we would only match whatever your total target is on your crowdfunder page. We would match that, but there's nothing to say that you can't get extra funding from other pots as well. So it's probably going off piece to bit, but there's other pots available from Sport England, for example. They could pledge another £10,000. So if you're getting pledges from other grants, we can pledge as well.
Yeah, Stefan's project was a great example of that, actually, wasn't it, Stefan? You got Sport England and Lambeth, I think. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised, actually, because when we started off, I had already envisaged that we would apply to the Places to Ride Fund. It's something I've been discussing with British Cycling for maybe 2 years already. Just shows you how long in the planning this all was. But then when we set up our campaign, it said, there's go here to see additional funding. And I saw that there was a Lambeth match fund, which happily our project qualified for. That was for 5k. There was the Sport England for 10k as well. So in the end, we got 30 grand in match funding alone, which was brilliant.
I've just dropped a link to our extra funding page in the chat box. So have a look there. There's loads of regional funds, national funds. So have a look, see if there's anything else you may be able to access, even more than just the awesome fund with British Cycling. All right, I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, especially to our panel. You guys have been brilliant, so thank you. Join the online learning platform, check out the other projects, and make sure you have a look through the terms and conditions as well. And best of luck with your crowdfunding projects.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.